Hey everyone, this is Corine Lafont, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, on Between the Lines. And you know how we do it here on Between the Lines. We're always thankful. For me, I use the word thankful. Or some people say gratitude. Either way is fine. Once you're always in that mode of positivity and gratitude. And I'd just like to say that I am so thankful to be here above ground another day, new mercies, new everything, a blank slate each day to do over, to not look back at the past, and to just keep moving forward. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Trinidad and Tobago. It's slightly overcast. There's a little argument going on between the sun and the rain, but that's okay. We know who's going to win. Either one, it's fine by me. Rain or sun, I'm good to go. You see a lovely man here who's trying to steal my hairstyle. Clearly, that's what he's trying to do. Yeah, copy me. So he did some research and decided he would have his hair the same way, same kind of color and everything. Although he's kind of platinum white sort of, which is where I'm heading. But he searched me out and did my hairstyle. Richard Stone. So let me tell you a bit about Richard.
Hello. Good to be here with you.
Richard is going to be talking today. Good. Richard, I'm hearing a bit of static and background noise coming from you, I think.
Okay. Not sure why. Um,
Yes, it's a lot of static. I don't know, but first I wasn't hearing you and now I
let
am.
me
So
try a
let's keep
different
going.
mic. Hold on a second.
Probably it will,
Let me try a different microphone. Let's see if this.
Yeah. While you're doing that, let me tell persons what we're talking about today. So we're talking about becoming a master of your story. I don't know what that means, but we're going to find out today. Becoming a master of your story. And let me tell you a bit about Richard while he's getting organized. So he's changing his mic, so you're not going to see him right now. So Richard, he's the CEO of Storywork International, clearly, because we're here to master our stories. So for the past 30 years, Richard has been assisting organizations across the country to tell their story better. Why we need to do that? I don't know. As CEO of Storywork International, he has pioneered new approaches to bringing the practical applications of telling into all facets of business, healthcare, and education. He co-developed the award-winning game Pitch a Story. I did not know there was a board game called Pitch a Story. I know about Monopoly and some others. Pitch a Story. It would be interesting to find out more about that. And is a recognized national speaker in addition to authoring numerous books, including Story Intelligence, which I would feature a bit later in this episode. Let me see what's going on with Richard. Richard, say something. Let me make sure I
I
can
think
hear
I'm
you.
here now. How about now? How about now? Hear me now?
No, it's even worse.
Hold on a second. Let's just try one other thing here.
No, no, no. Something is going on with that mic, your port, something.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Beautiful. Love it. Let's
Okay.
go. Let's go. Yes, and I'm hearing you clearly and
Good.
beautifully.
I'm sorry for this.
Lovely. Whatever you did, leave it like that. Don't touch anything. So, Richard, we're talking about mastering your story. You mastered my hairstyle clearly. That's okay. So, if you could master my hairstyle, you clearly have something good to tell us today. Mastering your story. No, let me just tell you something, Richard. I'm from the Caribbean, as you know, Trinidad and Tobago. And just in case you didn't know, Caribbean people are known to be very good storytellers. We are always telling a story every day, constantly throughout the day. Okay? You jump in a taxi, you jump on the bus, it doesn't matter. You're hearing stories all day. And we can pull from every direction. Our grandparents told us stories. We are carrying on the stories. Every day there is a story. Okay? So if we have to master any story, I think it should be us teaching this, not you. But okay, you're here.
I bow to you. I bow to you.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Not only me, to the entire Caribbean. So I think you need to move over. Any story mastering involves people coming over here. So you need to just move over to the Caribbean so you could join us. And then you could say you could master the story. Okay? That's a deal. So tell us why do we need to master our story, Richard?
Well,
Why?
there's a term that I kind of coined a few years ago. I call it deforestation. If you go into an old growth forest and you cut down all the trees and you plant pine trees, the forest doesn't quite come back. And I don't know about all of your listeners, but I can say that at least in the United States and I think in lots of westernized countries, we have gone through a process that's similar to deforestation, as I call it destorification, where we don't spend time telling stories. We don't spend time together, sitting on a porch around a fire, reminiscing about the old times. And we have to, in a sense, relearn that. It is our natural. It is natural to all of us, So, wherever you are, I think it's our native language. We all speak story. So I think we have to learn how to master it from that perspective. But also, because we are swimming in stories all the time, we're telling stories about ourselves to ourselves. We're telling stories about other people we know, and we are telling stories about our world we live in. And sometimes those stories can liberate us, and sometimes they can confine us. And we have to become much more conscious of that fact. And once we do, we can become what we say that you can become the author of your story. You don't have to be a victim of the past, for example, past stories. So that's a little bit about what we're talking about in the new book.
Nice. Now hear what? I'm still hearing a bit of static. I don't know if it's because you're too close to the mic or what's going on, but I'm hearing still a little bit of static, but at least I'm still hearing.
Okay, I don't know how to fix that right now. Yeah, so let's just keep going.
Yeah, I know, but we're gonna keep, of course we'll keep going. We're not stopping. Nothing is stopping us. That's the story we're telling ourselves. No. So I do appreciate what you said, because a lot of us tell ourselves a story. And the story that we tell ourselves is what manifests in real life. And a lot of us are not really aware, Richard, of the stories that we're telling ourselves, and we are wondering why certain things are happening to us. And sometimes people on the outside would look at you and say, this is what you're saying to yourself. Have you ever thought about this? I've been watching you. Sometimes people tell you and you just ignore, or you live in denial because you don't want to accept. Now, I want you to be able to share with us, how can we acknowledge or identify the stories that we're telling ourselves? And if it's not manifesting in something positive in our lives, how can we undo that so that the story that is manifested is more of a positive, exciting, joy-filled, abundant one?
So there's a concept that some researchers that I know came up with. They call it the Solomon paradox. King Solomon was known for his wisdom, and people would come to him for advice, and he would always be able to see problems more clearly than they could see them, and give them a solution. The problem is we have a hard time doing that for ourselves. And King Solomon, his life was a wreck. His life was a wreck. The kingdom was a wreck. He couldn't do it for himself. And so, as one, we need some self-distance. I once heard a wonderful storyteller, Sid Lieberman, say that he was describing humor. Humor was like seeing your life from the other side of the street, and that you can be able to look at yourself and laugh at yourself. And so, often our friends, as you said, they can see it very clearly where we've got issues, and if we just did X versus Y, we'd be in better shape. But we can't see it. So, one of the things that we talk about is that we're all born into a story. We're born into a family. The story's already running and going, okay? And we just get on that train. And we often learn stories about ourselves and about the world that aren't helpful, that are negative, that depreciate us in some way. So one of the things we have to do is we have to sort through the treasures and the trash. And one of the ways that we help people discover what the treasures are, the real treasures are, is a little exercise that we call angels and heroes. And so, for your listeners, if you just took a piece of paper and drew a line on it and divided it into 7 year increments, however old you are, you're 49, if you seven increments, and identify who are the angels or heroes in your life along the way. Who have been those people who have helped you, who you've emulated, who you've patterned yourself after. And those are usually filled with the treasure stories, stories that can really be positive. I can't hear you, Corine. There.
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second. Do you happen to have a headset? Because I'm hearing an echo of your voice, very robotic, coming
Let's see if I can put that in. Hold on. I'll do that.
Yeah. It's really disrupting the flow of the conversation and the quality, of course, of the interview.
How's that?
See if you can put in a headset, and beautiful. Continue now.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And that's helpful.
Beautiful.
So there are trash stories, and so when we get a little distance from ourselves, we can go, is this story helpful to me? Does it expand my possibilities, or does it shrink me in a profound way? And when we can begin to discern that, we can begin to say, that story no longer serves me anymore. I've been carrying that story a long time, and it's weighed me down. It may be time to put that story aside. That's not always easy to do, though. We know through some brain research is that there's this notion that neurons that fire together wire together, and that's a helpful thing because we develop neural patterns. And we can sort of do all kinds of things without having to think about them. You don't have to be thinking about brushing your teeth in the morning, or when you get out of bed, you go, should I put my left foot down? Will the floor meet me? That's all automatic. But the problem is some of those trash stories also get wired in, and they go, they're like tapes, and we all know those. You hit number 7, and that song plays. God, here I'm telling myself that same old story. I
want to ask you something, Richard. The thing about it is, what was going through my head in listening to you, some of us love the stories that we have been perpetuating all along. We don't want to let go because it makes us comfortable. And it keeps us, like you say, for some persons in victim mode. And some of us like to be in victim mode. Oh me, oh my, oh woe is me, because it gives us the attention from others. Why let go of that story? When I can get the attention and the adoration from everybody and just being a permanent professional victim.
Well, it's interesting. We all like to feel special, right, Corine? And sometimes depressive me, the stories that are depressive me stories, they get me attention, and so we have to become aware of how that really interferes from our potential as a human being. One of the other things that we talk about that may be useful to people is that we think that every one of us comes into this life with a calling, a deep purpose to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And if we can identify what that is, we can look at those depressive me stories and ask the question, if I'm called to do X or Y or Z in my life, is this story serving me? Is it helping me get to that place? And often it isn't, obviously. So one of the things that becomes incumbent upon us, if we want to grow and if we want to expand, which is, I think, is our birthright as human beings, is to constantly be growing and evolving, we have to we have to take an assessment of ourselves, and look at and say, I've been telling that old story a long time, and you know what? It keeps me down. One of my favorite storytellers, Donald Davis, tells a story about his father who injured himself as a young child with an axe, and and it was a terrible injury, and he was going to be walking. Luckily they saved his leg, but he was going to be walking with it for a limp for the rest of his life. And when he came out from the hospital, his mother said, now, Joe, I want you to tell the story. He said, well, I don't want to tell the story. I'm just going to be a cripple my whole life, and nothing's going to be, my life is ruined. And she kept on making him tell the story over and over again. So now tell me the story from the point of view of the nurses who helped you there in the hospital, or tell me the story from the point of view of me and your dad who found you, and we had to get you, all the things that went on there. And at some point, she said, now, Joe, what do you get to do now that if that hadn't happened? What good things had happened? And suddenly he realized he got to read a lot, and his brothers were out working in the field all the time, And she said, now, Joe, if you don't tell the story, you'll be 50 years old and you'll still be 5 again, and that story will be sitting on top of you. And so we have to, we all have been wounded in some way in our lives. Yeah.
Richard, I'm still hearing, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I'm still hearing that robotic voice of yours, another voice competing with yours and the static. I thought the headset would have worked. Still keep it because it's a little bit better than before. But I'm still hearing that. I don't know what is causing it. I don't know if you have another device.
Let me try changing mics. Hold on a second here.
I don't know if do you have another device open where there's an echo, or what are you using are you using a phone, a computer, a desktop, a laptop? What are you using? Now I'm not hearing you. Now you're gone. I'm not hearing anything. Okay. So we lost Richard there for a second. He's trying to sort out his microphone issues, so forgive us for that. Technical difficulties. I don't know what is happening. I try to assist, but I think he's changing out. He's changing out the mic or the port. Hey, Richard.
Let's see if that helped at all. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it
doesn't help.
No, it doesn't at all.
I don't know what to tell you, Corine.
A little bit. I think it's going in and out.
Yeah.
Now you sound a little bit clear, and then after a while it goes back.
I don't know whether that's me.
But here is a. I don't know why it's doing that. Then you start to hear the static. When you listen back, you would see unless you're hearing it. Are you hearing it when we speak?
I hear some static in the background. Yeah, it's but I don't know. I haven't had this problem before, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know what is causing that.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I've never had it before either. Honestly, I've never had it before. But it's always good for a first time. If you have it a first time, it will happen a second, and we have to learn from this experience in order to help somebody else. Yeah. But Richard, we're gonna keep going. Yeah, we're gonna keep going and discussing. You were saying a while ago about the different stories that people are saying to themselves, and we were talking about being comfortable where you are, being in that victim mode, and if you don't make the change. But you see, the thing about it, Richard, is that you have to be aware that whatever is happening in your life is a story that you're telling yourself. So awareness is one. And secondly, you have to be willing to accept it. And thirdly, you have to be willing to want to change it. And the thing about it is, some of us don't know how to change it. We want the life of the other person. We see our friend or whatever being successful and think that by following exactly what that person does, it will change the results. And sometimes you follow it to a T, and it just doesn't work out for you. What do you think is happening in that kind of dynamic?
Well, we say that there are 3 words that are the most important words that you need to know. And the way you order those words in your life has a lot to do with the outcomes that you experience. And those words are be, do, and have. Now, many times we order those words as have, do, be. And what I mean by that, I go, I want to have a bigger car or a nicer car or a nicer home, or I want to have what she has or he has. And what do I need to do to get that? And then we think that we will be happy once we get there. And inevitably, that's not the case. What happens is that we get the bigger car or we get the bigger house, and we look across the street and someone's got a nicer house than our house, and we go, that house, I want to have that house. And we think if I just had that house, I would be okay. And that often doesn't fulfill us. So if we order those words a different way, be, do, and have, then the question becomes, who do I want to be and become? Okay? And what do I need to do to be that person? And if I act out of that beingness, so we say that our most aspirational story is our calling story. It's our heroic story. And if we can say that's the story that I want to live, we suddenly discover that we often have all the things we need. The universe rises up and supports us to get those things. And
Of course.
I think that's a mistake, especially in material societies that we live in today, where we get bombarded with marketing stories that says, if you only have this, you will be okay. And we compare ourselves continually.
Life will be perfect, Richard. All your problems will just go away. Poof. It will just go. Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah. And people buy into that.
Yeah. And so we could solve a bill of goods, literally. It was a bill of goods. And there is a price to be paid if we think that that's going to bring us fulfillment. So we can look around.
That's right. Yeah. I noticed in your bio.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed in your bio, because that intrigued me when I was reading it, about pitch a story. You have a board game that you developed?
Yes.
I want you to share that, because I don't want to miss this coming down to the end of
Sure.
the interview. I want you to share that. Is that on your website, by the way?
Yeah, you can still get the game, I think, on Amazon. It's kind of run its course, but the idea with this is that we're all natural storytellers, and it was patterned after the world of entertainment, and it was a great thing. There were 5 decks of cards with the characters and problems and props and settings, and then you would do a spin, and you could do it in teams, and people love playing it together because they get to improvise and make up stories. And so I think it's still out there. This was developed back in the early 2000s, so it's been over 15 years ago, and it was an award-winning game at the time. Our big thing right now is this whole new book, Story Intelligence, is what we think is the thing that is really important. And the distinction with that is that we often talk about emotional intelligence, but if people start to develop their story intelligence, they can, in fact, that can actually propel their lives further. Yeah.
Wow. Could you share, before we go, one of the stories just one of the stories you were telling yourself prior to understanding all of this, and by using the story intelligence approach, how has it transformed or changed your life? Share one story that you think may be able to resonate with some.
Yeah. So it's interesting. At one point in my life, I thought I had the Midas touch. I was running a company, and I sold the company, and I embarked on a new career, and I was doing work with storytelling and doing workshops all over the country. And the business failed terribly. And the story I was telling myself at the time was that my life is over. This is the end of life. It was such a blow for me to have a failure. And and that was not true. I discovered that there was life after failure. I learned a lot out of that, and it didn't destroy me. So,
there is life after failure. Richard, A lot of people don't believe that. Failure means jump in the grave and cover over yourself. It's over.
No, and so actually, we need to learn to relish our failures and relish the times
That's
when things
right.
go wrong and say, what might I learn from this? And there's
Yeah.
an old saying, when one door closes, another opens. What we don't normally remember with that saying is that we often look so longingly at the door that closed that we don't see the one that opened. And so we get
Yeah.
very attached to what is the reality we've been living in. And when that ends, either by choice or because it's out of our control, um, yes, we need to mourn it and grieve maybe what was past. And I did a lot of grieving at that time about that. But we have to look around and say, what's possible? What's the next possible thing that we could be doing right now that would be supportive and affirming of my life?
You know what failure says to me? I don't know if anybody else has thought about this, but failure says to me, Richard, that you have tried. You have tried, and somehow the dynamics or the environment or something you did needed a bit of tweaking. So the next time around, because of that failure, you have learned lessons to do it better the
Right.
second time. If you fail the second time, because of that failure, you are able to do it better the third time. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we could look at Einstein, we could look at a lot of people. Einstein went around this, from what I heard, 10,000 times, and he never gave up. He didn't die before, light and energy and all those different things came about. He kept going. Why did he keep going? Because he believed. He believed. Okay? And he knew one day he will get it. Why? And I'm putting myself in his shoes, because he knew he had learned something that he didn't know before, that he can apply the second, third, fifth, 10,000th
Yeah.
time.
If we can see our
Yeah.
life, Corinne, as an adventure, and that at
Mm.
every turn there's something to be learned, and some things work and they don't work. Um, and we often think we tend to catastrophize when things don't go well. We tend to go, oh, the
Yeah.
world, the sky is falling, and
Oh yeah, what do you call it? Chicken
yeah,
little. Chicken little.
but the sky isn't falling. It's like, okay, something
Yeah.
fell, but okay, but it opened up something. There's a new possibility. We have to look around and say, okay, now what? And when we can do that,
Yeah.
even in the most difficult situations, there's a story I tell in the book of a couple whose son died playing football. They were at the football game, and he took a head injury, and he ended up dying 3 days later. And it was a horrific experience for them. But out of that, some wonderful things came. They decided to make some changes and to help people who had concussions. And they started a center in North Carolina, and a lot of wonderful, beautiful things came out of that. And so she said to me one day, she woke up, she says, she stopped asking why, and it was now what? And so often when we have
Mhm.
tragedy in our life, so why did this happen? And we can get very obsessed with why something bad happened. But when we can then say, okay, this happened and it's painful, and it will always be painful for them as they recall their son. But now what? Now what can we do? What's possible?
Mhm. Mhm. I want to showcase the trailer as we're closing off. Let me just
Okay,
do
sure.
that. Yeah, let me do that, and I'm going to go full screen on it. Awesome.
Thanks for showing that.
Awesome. Let me get back to you here now. We are at the end of this wonderful episode. Let me just close out this and bring us back in full screen. Richard, even though we had some technical difficulties, I managed to still hear you, get all the juicy details, showcase your book. Persons know how to contact you, the website. Any final words?
Thank you for having me. And I just, all of us have a story to tell, and I encourage all of your listeners to get with their family tonight and start sharing stories, simple stories about their lives and the things they've learned and seen.
That's right. And COVID supposedly allowed that, because now we're more isolated, and we are not supposed to be outside frequenting. We are supposed to be sitting at the table, breakfast, lunch, and dinner as often as we can, and have sharing, not only sharing a meal, but sharing conversations. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you a lot, Corine.
Apologies again to those who are watching. Yes, not a problem. Apologies again to those who are watching and listening. Any static you may have heard, I hope it just happened on our end, but the stream coming through to you was clear and crisp. That's the story I'm telling myself. So let's hope that is the case. Thank you so much again, Richard Stone, for being on Between the Lines.